lived a hobbit. Not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. Good afternoon, Tippy and Bethy. Today is the first official video from me for the Lady Spies book club, and today I am reviewing The Hobbit by Tolkien. But this came over me like a sickness, like a craving. I absolutely had to read it, and I read it in like 2 days. It's pretty short. I love it. I think out of 5 stars I would give it 4.5. 4.5 because when I was in my early teens I tried several times to pick this up and read it, and for whatever reason I could never get past the first chapter. And the movie has probably helped me a little bit because when I read I do like to use the characters' voices in my head when I read it, and now that it's such a clearer picture when I read it. If you're a fan of the movie, don't read this and expect it to be the same, because it is quite different. And that doesn't bother me at all, actually, because I like what they add to the movies. So this story is about a hobbit named Bilbo Baggins who lives in a comfortable, beautiful little home called Bag End under the hill in Hobbiton. Hobbits are small, quiet creatures who like to garden and eat and smoke their pipeweed and never have to bother with anybody ever, until the wizard named Gandalf shows up at his door and proposes that he come along with a company of 13 dwarves to the Lonely Mountain. I did get distracted. I made this whilst I was reading. Completely upset his everyday life. They were loud and boisterous and were taking up space in his house and eating his food. And the most important dwarf is Thorin Oakenshield. Though this is Bilbo Baggins' story of how he went from being timid and minding his own business to an adventurous and pretty much a hero, this is also Thorin's story, because it is his people and his kingdom that had been overtaken by the dragon Smaug. Now, dragons like to hoard gold and jewels, and years ago he went to the kingdom, which was ruled by Thorin's grandfather Thror, and he destroyed and wreaked havoc on the city of Dale and everywhere, and just forced all the dwarves out into the open to start anew. Thorin is like, this is my time and it is my right to reclaim our jewels for my grandfather and my people. And they elect Bilbo as the burglar. Because he's small, he goes unnoticed amongst most of the races in Middle-earth. Of course, Bilbo is extremely reluctant, but at the last minute he runs out the door and starts on his huge adventure with the dwarves across the Misty Mountains. They get into all kinds of shenanigans almost immediately right out the door. They encounter trolls, they encounter spiders, they encounter wood elves, wargs, goblins, you name it. One of the best chapters, I think, is Riddles in the Dark, where Bilbo encounters Gollum, who's this slimy, gaunt creature living in this lake in the mountains, or yeah, unbeknownst to the goblins. And he starts in a game of riddles with Bilbo. If Bilbo wins, then he gets shown the way out, but if Gollum wins, then Gollum gets to eat him. So naturally Bilbo is doing his absolute best to beat Gollum. And the riddles are very good. I tried to figure them out, like I would read them and put my hand over the bottom of the page and I would sit and think, but in this chapter is where Bilbo finds this magic ring, which we all know is the One Ring, and when you put it on you become invisible. So he uses this quite a lot after this chapter to help him get out of harm's way. My favorite chapter, I think, is called Inside Information, where this is like the pinnacle, the main goal of the book, where they find this hidden door in the mountain and they sneak in, and Bilbo comes face to face with Smaug, and he's interacting with this dragon, and you just get chills, really on the edge of your seat, type of chapter. It's so full of suspense and is a good chapter. And you'd think that once they got the dragon and got to the treasure that everything would be over and be okay, but it just goes downhill from there. One of the things that happens a lot in this book is Bilbo gets knocked unconscious quite a bit. So I think this is for the third time he gets knocked unconscious towards the end of the book. And this is like the biggest part of the book where it's the Battle of the Five Armies. And you almost feel like you missed out on the whole thing. But that is where it is most surprising, because then it turns really, really sorrowful. But it ends on a good high note. Actually, a really funny one. But I'm not going to tell you. It's such a great book. I don't know why I didn't get into it earlier. But like I said, I feel like I needed to be in the right mindset, maybe because I've grown a little bit more, or felt it was the right time, or maybe it was just going to see the movie twice. I'm extremely excited for the other two parts. But this is a wonderful book, such an adventure, and the morals in it are amazing. I mean, because I feel like they mirror what I want my morals to be. It's about fairness and friendship. In this next to last chapter is my absolute favorite quote, possibly of all time, where my favorite character, Thorin Oakenshield, says, "If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world." That's so close to my heart. It's a wonderful quote, and it is so true. And that's what I love about Tolkien. He's very Hobbit-like, and it's just whimsical and lovely, but not without danger. I would definitely recommend it to others, although I don't think it's your type of book, Timmy and Bevy. Which will bring me to this question. Now that you're getting into the whole Lady Spies book club thing, I would like to know, first question, how do you like to read your books? Like, do you need to be in a certain little cubby hole or a certain area where you're most comfortable? Reading is most enjoyable for me when I can read it aloud to my pets, like my cat or my dogs, and read it with all the different voices. Do you think that audiobooks are cheating? I don't really go for audiobooks much. I like to multitask. I actually listened to a couple chapters of this book while I was making this map, and it was very enjoyable, and I don't feel like I missed out on anything at all. Anyway, that is my first book review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you guys later. Farewell.